Welcome everyone to another Reltio Community Show. It's an Ask Me Anything, so around Reltio's automated householding feature. As you can tell, I don't have a PowerPoint because I want to do a little bit different because this is an Ask Me Anything today. So really excited about it. As you can tell, a lot of these questions were posted from our last show. I'll have Suchen take a look back here shortly and kind of describe what we'll kind of talk about. But there are a lot of good questions there, and we have at least 7 or 8 of those questions. And we'll try to answer those, and then any questions that you might have, since it's Ask Me Anything. Also, upcoming, we have today's show around as an AMA on Reltio's automated householding feature. We have a few other shows that are being scheduled as we speak, but just aren't on this calendar. But we do have coming one up on the 20th of September, MDM as the launching pad for data governance journeys and value quantifications, more of kind of a thought leadership from one of our partners, ZS. So really excited to partner with those folks. And then we have a show on the 28th, which is also one of our partners called Evolving Data Management and Simplifying HCP and HCO Data Merges in Life Sciences. Really excited about that as well. And then lastly, if you don't know, Reltio is sponsoring in a big way an event called Data Driven 2023. It's a modern data management conference. Since you are all part of this, the community, we do have a code. So if you register, you could use all caps community, and you get $200 off. I think right now it's at $7.95. It will take it down to $5.95. I think that's only for the next 2 days. But we have lots of great speakers. We have a lot of great keynote speakers: DJ Patel, Bill Schmarzo, Interpol, Rebecca. I mean, these are really great names. It's going to be here in Dallas, Texas. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Hope you can make it. I'll push the link and stuff like that directly into the chat here shortly. And I'm going to let Suchen take over a little bit.
Sure. Thanks, Grace. Welcome back, everyone. This is a follow-up to the last webinar that we did on automated householding feature. So I'm going to go and share my screen. All right. So what we'll do today is basically do a quick recap of the feature for anyone who missed the last session. The webinar link is on the community website. You can check it out, but I'll do a quick 5-minute recap of this. And then we'll kind of show you some new things that we have introduced since our last webinar. Pretty exciting stuff. And some of those things basically came from the feedback that we got in the last one, right? So we were able to kind of, quickly build those enhancements, and the configuration is much simplified, and I'll show that in a minute. And then we'll talk about, or we'll try to answer some of these questions that we got here. Yeah, so and we'll open it up for any other questions. And this will be like open discussion. Ask me anything, right? So, as the name suggests, you can ask me anything about this householding feature, what it does, where it stands today, where we are going with it, things like that. So with that, let me get started on this. So as I mentioned in the previous call, we started looking at this problem statement, right? We have consumer data, or customers have consumer data, individuals, and there's always a need to kind of, find the household information for those consumers for various purposes, for marketing, for understanding better the relationship between different consumers. And traditionally, the way this problem was solved is using by stitching multiple APIs together, or the processes together, and the typical implementation looks like basically you will grab all the records from consumer data set and try to find the records which are similar based on the last name, address, or account number, or whatever it might be. And these are the householding rules that you'll have to either configure or code. And every time there is a change to this requirement, you have to go back and kind of code or update your module and kind of go through the whole development process. So it's a very painful thing to do. And we wanted to solve this problem for our customer, right? Typically this household information is kind of bought or from third-party providers. The problem with that kind of approach is the data is not always up to date. The consumer information that you get in your tenant is something that you work very hard to keep up to date, right? So you have the right address, you have the right last name, you have the right account number, and things like that. So the idea here was, instead of relying on this third-party data providers to kind of provide this information, of course you can get additional information you don't have in your tenant from them, but the calculation itself, like the grouping of these individuals into the right household, has to be accurate, right? And the best place to do that is where the data resides, which is in Reltio. And that's why we thought about kind of building this functionality using our proven matching engine to find the records that belong to the same household. So with this feature, what you get to do is basically you get to configure this, your householding requirement, which is the rule, how you want to identify this household members, and then group them together. So matching engine, which is used for deduplication use case in many of our implementation, now can be extended to do the grouping of these individuals. And I'll show that in a minute how it can be done. So, some of the highlights of this one is you get to basically see the household across customer data and eliminate manual effort. This is basically where you have to find those records either through APIs, programmatically, or manually going into Reltio tenant or in your consumer data set and trying to find those records and kind of bring them together by manually creating links between the household members and the household entity, right? So this automated way of generating is going to basically speed up the productivity. And the best part of this feature is there is absolutely no configuration and of course no coding involved here. You can do all of this from the user interface, and I'll show that in a minute. So it automatically maintains and updates household member as the data changes. You don't have to worry about basically recalculating manually or running some jobs. As that member information changes, it understands that there is something that has changed about this record. And if it matters to the household rules, then it will recalculate and try to kind of disassociate that member from the household if it is no longer meets the householding requirement, and tries to find a new household for that member based on the updated information. So with that, I talked about this alternative at the beginning, which is using custom solutions and whatnot. So that's what we covered in more detail. There's a webinar link that Chris can share after this call from the first session that we did, right? So, all right. So let me get into the demo here. And this part could be a little repetitive, and it's already covered in the previous webinar. But what you'll get to see here is the refreshed configuration screen, which has made the configuration even more easier now, right? So I talked about the first thing that you will have to do here is basically define a match rule, which you are already used to for your match merge use case. So the definition part is exactly same as you would do for a deduplication use case. You define the match rule the way you want, based on your requirement. Here, I'm looking for a last name same, address line same, city, state. I can put in zip code in there, and I want to consider only home address here, right? I could have multiple addresses. This was one of the questions, and we'll come back to that. We could have multiple addresses, but I want to consider only home address. So as you can see, you can put in all that logic as part of the standard match rule that you are used to, right? The only thing that changes here is the match action. So this is a new action that we have introduced, automatically group, right? This is what tells Reltio platform that once you find these records which meet this matching instructions, do not merge them, but this is for basically grouping them together, right? And that's the change here in the matching. So it's a new action that we have introduced. Now let's jump into the grouping part of it. Now that we know how to find records that should be part of the same household, how do we basically group them together? So we need three things, right? Including the match rule that we just talked about. And I'll walk you through this. So this is a new screen that we have introduced. As you can see, click on here. This is the existing configuration that I have. So we have included more details now. Earlier, it was just the name of the relationship or the name of the match rule, but it didn't basically say what the match rule was. So now you can click on this and you can see exactly what match rule and what it contains. It tells me that it's exact on last name, address, line 1, city, state, and equals on this one, which is what we saw in the match rule. Now you don't have to basically move back and forth between match rule and the screen. You have all the information right here, right? It's super easy to read. You can see everything about this configuration right in one screen, right? So I know this is using this match rule. It is basically building the household information by copying information from the member data and things like that. But let's get into more detail here. So this is how you would create any new household. This is step number one. This is again a new screen. We have simplified this one to make it a single click. So basically all you need to tell us is which entity we should basically create this household data in. So that's the household that will tie all this member together. It's a simple drop down, and you can see we have also basically put in a validation here, which will highlight only those entities which are basically primed or ready for household configuration. So the reason this one is enabled is it has three things. It has a relationship with the member that has that automatic grouping rule configured. You don't have that on any other entity, which is why you don't see that. So you don't have to basically worry about finding the right entity here. We have simplified that one as well. It is highlighting only those which are ready for household configuration. So household is the one. The moment you select that, all of this is now auto-populated for you. So as you can see, it brings up the display name. This is how the household information will be, the label will be created. Let's go to the next one. The second thing that you need here is basically, obviously, the entities that you want to group. In my case, it is individual. So you basically see only that entity type because that's the only entity that has the automatic group match rule configured. And we talked about this one, that there are two rules here. I've selected the one which has the same last name and address. That's the rule I want to use. And the last thing I need here is basically the relationship type that will tie this individual with the group entity. So this is all I need here to create, to basically to identify the members and relate it with the household. But I still don't have information about the household, right? There are attribution on the household entity, which is here, what you see. This is list of all the attributes that you have configured on the group entity or the household entity. And I need to know how to basically build that information. So household name, where it's going to come from. So you have this mapping screen that allows you to do that. So here, what I've done is I've selected household name, and I want to copy the last name from the member as a household name. Similarly, I have address that I want to copy from the member, right, as a household address. Then you have these other functions such as fixed value, and this is basically for segmentation. If you want to kind of, just not copy value, but just kind of define a fixed value for any attribute on the household, you can select that household attribute, select this function called fixed value, and then just provide any value here, which will be copied for every single entity that we create as a household. This can be like, right now it is suffix. You could have another attribute, say household type, and you could have a US region households or Eastern region household. You can name it whatever you want, right? So this is basically for the segmentation, if you like. One other thing that we have introduced or in the process of introducing, this will come in the next weekly release of the week after that, is this additional functions that you probably don't see in today's version, right? Now it will allow you to calculate things like aggregate household income or the debt or basically the minimum, the maximum, the average, and those kind of functions are available to you. The reason it is visible here is because I've selected a string attribute. If I were to kind of select any number, then you would basically see all of those attributes. And again, it has to be simple attribute, which is why it is visible here. So those are the new things that we have introduced now. And once you're done with that, continue again. This is just a summary of what you've configured and this update, right? That's all it takes. I'm just going to do a quick load here. Before that, let me show I don't have any data in here, individual or household. So I'm just going to load this data. And yeah, okay. So that should basically push some data in there. Okay. I have around 7 or 9 entities. Yeah, that's the right tenant. Okay, so as you can see, records started coming in. So I have few records here. You can see the last name of these 4 records are same. Their address seems to be same. So they all should be grouped together. So without this functionality, what you have is a consumer records. And like I said, you have to run some sort of, custom job or stitch some APIs together to build this information. But as you can see here, the household data is now automatically created for you. So I should have more information. Yeah, 8 records, right? So I have some other families in here as well. So let's go to the household now. And you can see there are multiple families created here. I want to look at this Carter family. And you can see now that it copied the last name from the member and created a house name out of it, right? And this is the fixed value that I said for every entity that you create as a household, create that value family. And this can be used for segmentation, right? Address is again something that it copied from the member. And this is a calculated field that I was talking about, right? Just like the aggregate functions, you can basically say, when you are building this household, also count the number of members for me. That is something that you might want to extract. So this basically tells me there are 5 members here. So let's look at other household. I have Johnson family here. Again, same thing. I have just 1 member, and that's the record that is created. So basically, this is what the end-to-end functionality is. Before I move forward and explain and talk about some of the other use cases, like what happens to the data when we change the last name of one of the records, or the person moves to a different address, the home address changes, how it basically automatically moves the record between different households. If the household is not present, then it will create the new household and put that member in it, right? So I'll take a pause here on this demo, come back to it, and we'll play around with this one, right? So we have a good time, plenty of time here to kind of try different use cases. So I want to go back here and answer these questions. Okay. All right. So in our environment, we aggregate our customer addresses rather than choosing a single address, such as most recent, that present challenging householding rule configuration in Reltio. So this is a example that I demonstrated here in my configuration, right? You can have multiple addresses, you can have all kind of addresses, but you get to pick what address or addresses you want to consider for matching, right? Today, it basically randomly picks one address while creating the household, but during the match calculation process, it follows the instructions. So if you have the business address, mailing address, other kind of addresses, and you have multiple records matching on that, but all you want is to match on home, it will only group those records with matches on home address, regardless of what addresses they have. So the short answer to this question is no, that should not be a problem. If you have multiple addresses, it will basically use only one address if you configure it that way in the match rule. But I want to show you one example, and this could be seen as a bug at this point of time, and we are aware of it, and we are solving this one, and it will be available in next couple of weeks. You can see here there are two households with the same name here, right? Tells me that that this is a same Watson family living at this one, and I built this record based on that question because I wanted to kind of explain this, right? If I go here, you will see that the address on this is different, right? And this is the home address, which is why this record was put by itself. But while copying, it just copied the mailing address from this. This will be fixed. So you will have just the home address here, or it will basically give you all the addresses. So that's the one. But if you look at the other family now, the Watson family at that, okay, let's go back. Let me do a quick refresh here. All right, there you go. Yeah, this is a home address. And here what happened was, this is the mailing address probably, right? So which is why the home address was used here, and it saw that this, even though they have the same Watson last name, but they do not match on the same home. That's why you got two different households and one member each in that. So the short answer here is that's not a problem. We can definitely support this one. But while copying the addresses, it is copying randomly at this point of time, which will be, again, you will get to pick what address you want to copy, or it will copy all the addresses pretty soon. Let's keep going. If there are follow-up questions, please ask those in chat and we'll come back to that. The match rule rules that cross entities. For instance, if account is separate entity for person, you can have a householding match rule that uses last name and account number. Okay, I also created a record for this one. Let me show that very quickly here. Okay, so the short answer again is it does not use the relationship data in the matching, just like we don't support that in the deduplication use case as well. What I've done here is this is a reference attribute, right? Which is basically a relationship, which is what you're asking here, right? If you look at this, this is the account. It has a joint savings account with that number. What I've done is I've created a reference attribute out of it. And now I get to basically go to that account and see all the individuals that share that account. So I potentially can build a match rule which says last name same or address same, and the account is matching. Even though their last name may not be same, they would still be grouped as long as you have that information on the individual profile. So that's the way to solve that use case. I hope that answers that question. If not, again, we'll take a follow-up question. So let me quickly go through this. Is household separate entity type that gets created? What happens with relationship? I demonstrated this one also. What we have done is we did not introduce a new object like an entity or relationship. We did not introduce a new household object. This is basically a regular entity that you get to create, you get to configure, and you get to basically pick any list of attribute that you want for this household, right? So I have lots of other attribute in here. I can show here, as you can see, there's phone number, there is, there's phone number, account, and other stuff, right? You get to basically define this entity. And the advantage of this approach is as the data gets built out in this household entity type, all other functions like export, cleansing, match, merge, all of that becomes available to you. So you can extract this one just like a regular entity now. The relationship is something that we build. And let me show you that if you go to the sources, which shows you, who created this, it tells you that R grouping, which is a Reltio grouping, created this one. So there's a clear traceability here as to who creates this record, who created this record, and what relationship was created. So I can go to the relationship now, and you will see that all the relationship that I've created here is also created by R grouping, which is Reltio grouping. I hope that answers that question. The other part is, could this be used for organization and associating different orgs in a hierarchy? Potentially it can. In future, it definitely will be supported, but right now we just wanted to use this grouping concept just for householding, because we get to kind of, put some boundary around it, around the use case, and kind of control it in that way, and then slowly expand it to other use cases like, building organization hierarchy through relationships. So now you can basically find organizations that share the same attribution, group them together as an org group, and kind of, have some more organization group or group of groups, and that's how you create the hierarchy. That's the plan going forward. And we are super excited about this feature, right? This is a foundational grouping functionality, will open up doors to all these use cases in future. But right now, we have certified the householding use case, but I'm open to trying this one with you. So yeah, we can try this, but it's not certified yet. But definitely there's a plan to kind of open this up for use cases like this. Can household do matching across two entities like org and individual? Unfortunately, this is something that we cannot do right now. And this is, again, because we are using the underlying matching engine that Reltio support for deduplication use case, where we don't support, and this use case also will not be supported as of now. But what we are trying to do, or trying to solve this one, is in a way that you can create two different configurations, one for basically finding the individual and finding, say, vehicle. I think that was the question here. And it's not allowed. Yeah, something like, pets and people, or pets and organization and things like that, right? So you can build a configuration separately, and they will end up in the same household if they share the same household attribution, like the last name or the address, something like that, right? So it will come together, but not via matching. We don't have a way to basically build a rule to say, find matches across different entity types. Can the household data be published as event? If yes, there are new configuration under new configuration, or is it part of relationship? As I explained, this was really the reason why we didn't want to build a new module or new object type, right? Because that will again require for our customers to build all sort of integration modules and components and things like that. This is just a regular entity relationship. So you will get entity created, events published. You will get entity relationship created when the new association happens. When members are taken apart or disassociated from the household, relationship removed event will be fired, and you get to basically listen to that and act on it as you need. When the source data changes in the household link drop, what kind of events are triggered? Yeah, this is something that I just talked about, right? So when the links are removed, a relationship removed is what we trigger. Is the rule created using the OV value only? This is, again, let me go there very quickly. To the modeler. So if I understand the question here is, if I want to basically build this rule to use only OV value, right? So yes, you do have that option. And so you get to use all the properties of match engine that you use for deduplication here. You can basically say, use the relevance-based match rule instead of, and you can tie that action there. You can basically say use only operational values or all values and things like that. And all the comparators, functions that we have, fuzzy matching. If you have cases like multi-word last name, like, husband and wife basically have different last name or slightly different last name, both names together, things like that, right? You can do that with distinct word comparators and things like that, right? So that is something that is supported. Also, one of the household name, last name change, can it be prevented from being unmerged from household? Yes, it can be prevented as long as it meets the other household requirement. Like I said, right, this is all basically driven by matching. So if you can prevent that record from splitting apart from the other members using match rules, then it's not going anywhere. It will stay with that household, right? So that's the awesome part of this one, right? You get to control what rule you build, and it's like happening like through configuration, and there's no retuning or recoding of anything. You just have to change the match rule, go and run the rebuild match table job, and it will basically just recalculate the whole thing. What happens if household address change? For example, we integrated to DNB, and the address data is corrected and reached. Will it create new household, and new household have these household members? What happens to the old household? Okay. So the question here is, if I go back, this is a good example here again. So the question is, what if this data on all these members change from 635 to say 735 Park Avenue, because that is what DNB tells it's the right address, or any source for that matter, right? What happens to this household? So this will be treated like just like any other update to the record. So what will happen is, as the record update starts flowing into Reltio, this members will start moving apart from this or away from this household. So basically, Sherry Carter will go and find a new household. If it does not have the household of Carter family at 735, it will create a new household and will associate Sherry to that new household. Then Jill will get an update, same as Sherry here, like 735. And this time it will see that 735 Park Avenue Carter family already exists, and the Sherry Carter there, it will simply go and associate with that household. So all these household members will get attached to the new household with the new address there. And what happens to this one? This basically gets deleted if it does not have any more member. That's the default functionality. We will provide more option in future, which will allow you to keep this household, or basically say ended this relationship, do not delete them. Those kind of options will be provided in future. But right now the behavior is, it's a hard delete of relationship and hard delete of the household if it does not have any member. So I think that's all the questions that was posted here.
So we have several more, and I can start asking those if that's okay.
Sure. Yeah.
All right, great. So Vinod said, how do you define different logic for household names like last name plus household ID?
Okay, so if this is a question about if the household name should be last name plus something else, then the way I would do that is I will go here in my mapping. I would need help of other attributes to kind of collect that data first from the members, like last name from the member as a household name, some other ID if you have in other attribute, and use a concatenation function on the household attribute that will basically generate that concatenated name. And that will get updated by the cleanse function as the data basically changes, right? And that is really the reason we wanted to kind of, have all the options available to you for a regular entity that you can apply on the household. So it cannot be done, or we chose not to basically build that here in the mapping, because it just kind of increases the complexity of the mapping. Like, you define the concatenation function here and it just gets a little messier. I understand there will be some requirement where we will have to provide some concatenation functionality in the mapping screen itself, and we will support that in future. But right now we think you collect all the information here and write a cleanse function on the attribute of the household. Yeah.
Great. And let's see if this makes sense now, but is there a potential household match? So Max, I don't know if that was like a past kind of thing. Does that make sense at all, Suchen, or
Yeah,
Max?
yeah, it does.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's a frequently asked question, by the way. Is there a potential household match? So this is basically, if I understand this question correctly, and we have heard this from other customers as well.
Yeah.
This is basically what we are talking about is automatic merge, right? We are
Got it.
pretty sure that this all customers or this consumer should be part of this household. But what if we are not? What if we are not 100% confident? Like, is there a suspect household match? I think that's the question here. At this point of time, we don't have that functionality, and we will introduce in the similar way we have introduced the suspect match. So you will see a pair which will say basically something like, you will see it here, and because we don't have this cross entity type of screen right now, you will see that list here and list of all the existing house members somewhere here, and it will say, by the way, I have this Jonathan Carter also at 635, but missing a zip code, and that's why it's a suspect, household member. Do you agree? And you will basically say yes, it's the same person. Oh, sorry, the person still belongs to the same household. You can accept, and it will just get associated with that household, or you can reject, saying that no. I think that's the question. So the short answer is we don't have that right now. It's all automatic grouping, but that's definitely something that we are considering.
Okay. So where did the original household data come from?
The original household data. If the question is like, as I demonstrated here, first of all, right, there was no household data. We manufactured it, right, from the individual data through that mapping.
Yep.
And if you do have existing household data from your legacy system that you want to bring into this, you're free to basically load that here against the household entity using the data loader application or using your custom loading process that you have. What we do not support right now is, let's say there's a Watson family and you have information like their aggregate income or some other information that you don't have in Reltio right now. You want to attach that information to this Watson family at 1401 Henderson Street, right? You don't have a way to kind of merge that data automatically here. And that is something that we will support using the match rule. You can basically write a match rule on household, which will say if the household name matches, if the address matches, then merge the record. So now you get basically your own household data that you brought in from outside with the data that was calculated by Reltio. So when you start and you don't have the external household data, the household data is manufactured right here in Reltio.
Okay. Are there any plans for Reltio providing options to copy enriched data from household to its individual entities? For example, a DUNS number?
Yeah, I think that basically the thing that I just explained sort of answers that question. So yes, there is a plan. It's basically done. You have external sources like DNB or any other third provider that provides that information about that household that you can bring in and attach it to the calculated household information through match merge process.
Got it. Yeah, makes sense. Is household considered out of the box, or is it custom?
This is out of the box. Like I demonstrated here, there is absolutely no configuration needed. You can do this by yourself. And you can just configure this householding grouping configuration using this tool that we provided here in the console. So it is out of the box.
Right. That's great news. So if the address is changed for one of the individuals, will it create a new household and de-link with the existing household?
Yeah. Yes, it will. And let's try that actually. What we'll do is we'll go here. Actually, Carter family is a good example because we have more members there. And this is something that I was playing around with this morning. There was so what we'll do is basically we'll just delete this address, right? and our matching requirement says that if the address matches and the last name matches, only then this record should be part of the same household. Otherwise, no, right? So I'm going to go and edit this one and just say no address. We'll keep it simple. Yeah, save. So this is basically the part of the recalculation that I was talking about. As your data is getting updated by your source systems and the external systems and whatnot. So as you can see, it is still pointing to Carter family at this one. And one thing I want to point out here that this is not a real-time system, meaning it basically does not recalculate and then persist the data. It basically persists the update first, and then the update flows into the grouping system or the grouping engine where it gets recalculated and basically update the data. So I'm just going to refresh this one. So what should happen here is like, Sherry Carter should move to a different household, and then so there you go, right? So I have a new Carter family now. As you can see, there is no address on this one. If I go to this family, there's just one Sherry Carter because there is no address. And if I go to the previous one, which is, oh, I lost that. It should not happen. Let's see. Let's go to individual, look it from there. We have Jill Carter here. Okay, I have that. It's just probably not synchronized on the search yet. There you go. So I have the Carter family still at 635 Park Avenue. And now you can see the member count is updated because we lost a member here, moved to a different family.
Great. Can households be grouped using more general address information such as radius or GPS location or even territory definition?
Yeah, and that is basically related to the question that was asked by someone here related to, I think it was the grouping, here, the org hierarchy. That's the perfect use case for this kind of functionality, right? Once we create a group, which is a household here, we can basically create another configuration, which is grouping the household itself, right? So yes, that will be supported again in future. Like I said, we are just kind of guarding this one, making sure that the householding use case works perfectly, and then open it up for other use cases. Like, so right now you cannot, if I go to the group configuration and try to define a new grouping configuration, it won't allow me to do that. It will basically tell you that, household is already a group entity and you cannot group the group entity. But that is something that is in the plan. Once we kind of close this and complete this functionality, we'll open it up for that grouping as well.
Got it. Will household be enabled in partner tenants by default, or should we request it?
So right now, you won't see this functionality by default. If you go to Data Modeler, you won't see this grouping type option unless you have requested for this. You can request by opening a support ticket, and we will enable it for you. Starting 23.3, which is in a month from now, you will be able to kind of enable this feature by yourself. When you click on it, you will see a screen which will say, get started or something like that. And you click a button and it will basically set up everything that is needed for this functionality to work. You won't have to create a support ticket going forward. But today, until 23.3, create a support ticket and we'll enable it for you. It's available to all partner customers, everyone.
Got it. So when we implement the household feature, does it apply to all entities that already exist or only for new ones added after it's implemented?
Another great question. So what if the question is like, what if I have data already and I'm putting the configuration now? As I demonstrated here, we did not have any individual and the configuration was already in the system. When I loaded this data, it started creating this household information because it reacts to those changes. But what if I already have the data and I want to calculate household, right? That's the question here. It is supported. So what you will do is basically once you configure this match rule and configure the grouping, all you have to do is basically just trigger this rebuild match job, and it will start populating the household information. So that is basically telling the Reltio platform that I put in the new match rule, and that match rule is supposed to basically create household, go do it on the existing data set. So yes, that is supported, and you just need to create a rule, create the configuration, and trigger the rebuild match table job.
Okay. What happens if household address is enriched as we send household to DNB? Will the individual entities still point to the same household?
No, if it is updated and if that address is part of your match rule, it will move out. It will basically try to find a new household with that matching new updated address. If it doesn't find one, it will create one and then associate.
Great. And so can this be done for organizations? So I think you already said it. It will be available in the future, confirming it. But if we create a separate sub-entity and we want automatically in an org, it gets created. Will that be supported in the future as well? Maybe there's two questions.
If we create separate sub-entity and we automatically, want automatically an organization get created, will that be supported? I don't follow this question. Nilay, if you want to just clarify that, see if I can answer that. I didn't fully understand that question, or we can come back to it.
Yeah, we'll come back to it. Nilay, so if you want to get on, can we avoid this single member households created?
Yeah, this was also something I think I missed this question. It was asked, so I'm glad that it was asked again here so that I can answer it. And this is why I love this kind of sessions, right? I get to basically talk about all this stuff. So yeah, that is supported. And the reason you saw, one second, sorry. The reason you saw things like here, if I go to Carter family here, there was just one member here. The question is, what if I don't want the household for a record that has just for record that is by itself? It doesn't have a household member, right? Yes, that can be controlled, and you control it using this switch here. You see how it basically tells me that create a group only if a more than one member is defined. This is how you set it up. If it turned off, that means create the group even if only one member exists. So this is how you control it. If you set this accordingly, it would have basically dropped this Sherry Carter from the previous family, but would not have created a new member because it will detect that there is no other member sharing this household. Yeah.
Great. Can we use grouping feature to build additional groups? So more than households. So for example, age groups.
Yeah. And like I said, right, we are guarding this one right now from the householding use case point of view, just so that we can really understand the parameters of it and make sure that it really solves the householding use case, which is why we build this functionality. But when we designed this underlying grouping feature, the idea was always to kind of, solve it for householding, solve it for age group, solve it for product hierarchy and more. So I would encourage you to basically go try it and work with us to kind of, any the gaps that you might see in that, because it's not really certified for anything other than householding at this point of time. But there is no reason why it would not work for any other group, as long as you have the matching data, you have the right relationships, and you have the grouping entity where you want to create that. So yeah, I mean, we will not stop you from trying that, but just want to kind of point out that it is really meant for householding. And let me know if you're trying so that I can keep an eye on it.
Great. A couple more questions. Can a single grouping type have multiple match rules on it?
Yes, we can. And this is basically the use case. What if the match rule is too complex and I don't want to basically have a bunch of and or conditions, like, if the last name and the address is same, group them together, or if the last name and the account number is same, group them together, or the address and the account number is same, group them together, right? You want to basically create 3 match rule for simplicity or for whatever reason, right? So you can do that and just simply add it here. So as you can see, I'm saying use last name and address or just last name, and then you basically get to define a different relationship type. This is really cool thing about it. You get to basically use different match rules and use a different relationship type to tie them together. So that way you can differentiate between what member came from which match rule, right? Or you can just use the same one and it will simply honor both the match rules here.
So between those match rules, it acts like as an or, is that right? Not a.
That is correct. Yes,
Okay.
that is correct. It acts like a or and not and, right? In match rule, you basically have like, by default it's and condition when you list bunch of attributes together and have a exact or whatever. So this is a way to say group using this or this, whichever you find, right? So that's what it's going to do. If an entity matches on both rules, then it will basically just use that one relationship type randomly at this point of time. And wherever I have mentioned that, it is doing this random stuff, that is basically, all those things will have options in future. You'll get to pick the behavior.
Got it. So a follow-up question on another question. If we enable this create household only when more than one member is present, when the system is live and it has a single member household created already, how does the system behave?
This one, we thought about this one, right? And as match rules change and you have this rebuild match table to kind of re-trigger the whole calculation thing, right? We don't have anything for this yet at this point of time. So if you change this configuration in the middle of the implementation or after you've done this calculation, we will introduce that sort of, recalculate grouping thing, which will cover both rebuild match table and also take care of this thing, like, drop entities with just a drop household with just one member if you not want that anymore, or the other way around, right? Start creating a household for members with just one if you did not calculate that before. That is something which is not supported right now, but yeah, we have that on our roadmap as well.
So I think we got to all the questions. It was a lot. That was awesome.
Yeah, this is really great. And so we got a lot of questions around like, grouping something else. So there's definitely a lot of interest in grouping more than just individual for householding use case purpose, right? And we are glad to hear that because we are already started working on some of those components. One thing I want to point out that we are currently working on and which will be available in 23.3 is, let's go here and we'll talk about that very quickly. There was this use case here, right? So as you can see, this is basically the mismatch, right? You have this Ricky Watson, which has this address, which is basically the mailing address, I can tell, because it shows home address here. And let's go and confirm that Ricky Watson, right? So you have 2 addresses here. As you can see, I've told this grouping to use only home, which is why I have just one member in there. What we are working on is basically instead of just copying one address randomly, we'll provide a new function, which will be somewhere here. Instead of just saying attribute value, it will basically say copy source information as well. So it will copy all these addresses to that group. So if I have, let's go to the Watson family here. What you'll see here is basically a list of all the members that you have here. All the data from all those members will be accumulated here in this household information. And now what you get to do is basically go to the source system and build that survivorship rule on the householding. And that way you get to basically pick whether you want to use home or the mailing. In this case, as you can see, it is picking home, but this is based on recency. If I go to the other Watson family, then you would probably see yeah, let's go here and go to the sources. You see mailing here. So this is kind of random is what I was talking about. So in couple of weeks or a month from now, you will have the option to basically define a survivorship here and say always pick the home address, because you'll have both in the household. So that is something that we are currently working on, and there are a few other things like defining multiple grouping for the same. What if you want, like, multiple group, multiple basically entities to land in the same grouping entity. Like, if you want to group, say, consumer and organization households and things like that, you don't want to create different household entities. So that is another thing that we are currently working on, which is also something that we are trying to see if we can push it into the next release. So yeah, let me know if there are any other questions. I hope this is exciting, and I'm super excited. We have customers trying this right now, requesting this feature and trying this in their dev environment. I encourage everybody to try this and let us know if there's something that we can improve on, and if there are some gaps that you see that we should consider in the next release. We are happy to do that. So with that, that is all I had to present.
Yeah, Suchen, it really great content, great information. This feature has been in the works for a while now, and here it is. So we're excited to obviously present this to you, and it looks like we are gonna continue to build upon this, and so that's even more exciting. But thank you everyone for coming. Thank you all for your questions. Please take the survey at the end of when you hit leave. Pop-up should come up. And until next time, thank you everyone for coming to this show. And Suchen, thank you so much for the great content. Really appreciate it.